Hi there, Amanda Buck, bookbinder out of Dahlonega, Georgia. Today I'm going to do a part one of a part two series on a set of books that just came in, 14 books from Atlanta, and I'm going to show you what they look like before, and then in part two you'll see the final product. And in this video I'm just going to discuss what I'm going to do to them so you can have an idea of the process. I'll try to do them in the same order in this video and the next, so we'll keep it synchronized. This first binding is a full leather with raised bands, and the hinge on the front board is broken, obviously, and the front end sheet is missing, so we're going to reattach that board with a fresh hinge, and I'm probably going to laser photocopy one of these end sheets and line it with antique parchment paper, and then reinsert that end sheet into the front so we have a nice full spread when you open it up. And then we'll do some cosmetic work on the cover, clean up our corners and dye and oil, and that'll be ready to go. This cloth binding here is History of Muhlenberg County. It's typical of a lot of heavy cloth bindings. The hinges, paper hinges, have popped and are detached, and the spine has gotten loose and sloppy. So we're going to take off this cover, reline the spine, probably reuse these original headbands, and reline the spine with mull and acid-free paper and rehinge it right back into this cover. It'll be ready to go. These 4 books here are all going to be cloth restoration rebacks. This little one is completely missing its spine, so we're going to match our new cloth to this original cloth through dyeing, probably, to make it an exact match, and then do an ink and paper label on the spine. This one is in rough shape. Trials in Savannah, Georgia. You can see where it's been eaten by bugs, and a lot of the spine is missing, so we're going to reback that. And I don't think there's money to patch the cloth, so we'll probably use dye to blend it. And these two, I believe, are a 2-volume set, but we thankfully have our original boards, which is great. So we're going to reback them with cloth that is matching with what's our little strip of original, and put on probably ink on paper labels to keep it with an antiquated feel. So these 4, you will notice a huge difference when they are finished. This book here, New York and the American Revolution, the boards are still detached. The binding is fine for all intents and purposes. It's just that our spine, exposed to sun or the elements, it has broken and fractured. So I'm going to lift that spine and reline the book spine with cloth, matching cloth, and then we're going to re-onlay what's left of our original. So that's a cosmetic cloth restoration. This little tiny book of the Grand Hotel has just come loose, so I may have to pull the text out. It doesn't look like it has to be resewn, but I may reline that spine to keep the text from further shifting and further breaking and sealing up what's left of the sewing. Be a very delicate, non-evasive job on this one. These next 2 are pamphlets. You can see they were paper pamphlet bindings, and they are completely disintegrated, so we're going to put something more substantial on them. Thin board cloth bindings, probably inlay what's left of these original covers into the front and rear. This one, somebody put some kind of homemade cover on it using fabric, and it was the Georgia, Old Times in Georgia, Good Times and Bad Times, 1901, and we're going to put a cloth binding on that, a pamphlet style binding, real thin board, and that will keep that going. This next one is, I don't know how this one's going to turn out. I normally don't even attempt books like this where the leather is completely rotten, but the boards are still attached, and we still have most of the spine. So this is probably just going to be inexpensive cosmetic, just gluing it back together, maybe do a little patch at the bottom of some leather and dye and oil it and put it back out there. And I hesitate to do that, but seeing as it's a request from a friend of mine, I'm going to attempt it. We'll see how that one comes out. These last three bindings are leather bindings. This one here goes back to 1742. It is a treatise of the imitation of Jesus Christ in 4 books, meditations and prayers for sick persons. So this one, we have our original rear board, and a lot of times bookbinders, you'll find, have stacks and stacks of these old boards that you collect over the years. And we tried to find a board to match. The best I can do with my stack, I found one miraculously that is the right size, but it doesn't have the same design. So we have options here. We can remove this original rear board, put it on the front, take the secondary board, put it on the back, rehinge it, put a new calf 22 karat gold tooled label on the spine, do a little patching on the spine, or you can do a new cover. Or we can't really reback it, we can't lift this spine, so actually we're limited to 2 options, either putting a new cover on it or going with what we have. And we'll see what the owner wants to do with this one. This Nicholson's Philosophy has been floating around the bindery for a few months. We've been trying to find boards. The original boards are missing, but we still have the original spine, minus a little piece of leather up here which can be patched. Little sewn-on, original sewn-on headbands too, which is nice to see. That gives you some indication of 1788, printed in Philadelphia, hand-bound. And the best I can find with my boards are not quite the right size. They just cover the text. They're not as tall as the spine, so there isn't any overhang. So at this point, it's been floating around for so long, do we put a new full leather binding on it, or do we let it ride? So it'll be interesting to see what the owner wants to do with this one as well. This last book has both of its original boards, which are beautiful. It's missing 3 sections of the spine. So in this case, what you can do a new spine, do a leather reback, calf reback actually, and you could re-onlay what's left of your original, or leave off what's left and just have a fresh spine with a new 22 karat gold tooled calf label. So that's another one I need to discuss with the owner to make sure, down to the detail, exactly what they want done. Always make sure that you do that. Even the smallest detail can be incredibly important to the owner of a book. It could devalue it by getting rid of a piece that should be put back on there. Even if it's just a tiny little piece, it could keep the value of the book, holding on to as much of the original as possible. And other times it's they'd rather you just stick with something fresh. So in all cases with conservation, restoration, repair, there are usually several options with each book, and depending upon money, depending upon value, depending upon sentimental value. So make sure you take the time, whether you're getting a book done by a bookbinder or you are the bookbinder yourself, to go over those details with the owners and with the binder to make sure if you want to keep everything, or if you want to, certain things can be set aside. So those are important details to try to accomplish in order to keep the integrity of the original binding, if that's your goal. So This is the end of part 1. Stick around for part 2 in about a week to 10 days. I'll have that ready for you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.